Yeah, welcome to the operating system class. We are now discussing about Unit 3, process synchronization. And in this, we will be talking about the first topic, the critical section. So before we dig into the critical section, we need to have some background regarding the process synchronization. So the background was there will be two or more processes which need to be executing simultaneously in parallel. Then we are going to say it is concurrent at that event. So those concurrent events, they need to be synchronized when there is a shared variable. So I have a shared resource. Now I am going to call that one as a shared variable. So shared variable, and this shared variable is going to be needed by process P1, need by process P2, and need by process P3 at a time. So now it is up to the operating system either to give it to P0, not P0, P1, nor P2. So since all of these three, they are going to have a concurrent, a parallel event, to which job this data has to be done, and there should be see that there is no inconsistency when it is going to operate. So two or more events, they are going to happen at the same interval of time. Then we need to say to which thing the shared variable has to be given and it has to be revoked. For that, the very problem what people has proposed, the very first problem what the people has proposed will be the producer consumer problem. So one was producer problem and another half will be the consumer problem. So producing is nothing but I have a shared data structure. I have a shared data structure, and that shared data structure is an array, and the name of an array was buffer, and buffer is going to be tracked by input operation in, and buffer is going to be tracked by output operation out. So the processes what we are going to do at one end, input end, we are going to call it as producer. The other thing what we are going to provoke in the second half will be the consumer. So items, in sense the data entries, are going to be inputted into the array at one end, and at another end whatever items have been produced, that they are going to be taken out from another net. So now the synchronization thing was, until an item is going to be produced, the consumer cannot consume. Similarly, when the consumer consumes all the items, make the count 0, then only the producer is going to be able to produce. So that is the problem here. I have an array size of 5. So 5 elements has to be produced. So assume the array size is 5, and I am going to have 5 elements. So 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. Now items are going to be produced. Now items are going to be produced with this one. I am going to have it as a in here. So in is incremented to first item, second item, third item, fourth item, fifth item. Now the producing problem is done. Then it is going to enter into the consuming problem. So what is this consuming problem is going to do is, it is going to empty 10 here, it is going to empty 20, it is going to empty 30, empty 40, and empty 50. So now the variable what the index we are going to call here will be the out variable. Using that, the items are going to be removed, the items are going to be deleted, if you can say. Then we are going to say it is a consuming problem. Now the synchronization is going to happen. Now the synchronization is going to happen when the producer is going to produce it, consumer will not consume it. When the consumer is going to consume it, producer will not produce. So how is this implemented? So here you can see the pseudocode. So producer, he is going to produce with this item. He is going to have a counter value and he is going to take up a buffer size. So buffer size in this problem is some 5 elements. So in I am going to call here as an index, and buffer we are going to call it as some shared data structure, nor we can say it is a shared variable, nor this item it is going to be a part of a critical section, or this item it is going to be part of a critical section. So whatever buffer we are going to say, this buffer, it is a shared data structure, nor it is going to be in this critical section. So in we are going to take it as an index and we are incrementing until the buffer size is done. Okay, producer has produced the item. What next? What next is that I am going to have 5 elements here. I am going to have 5 elements. So 10 is an 20, 30, 40 and 50. So it has been given by the producer here, and he has taken it as an in, and this one we are going to call it as buffer, and this is having some buffer size. And now the whatever item it has been done, now item is going to be consumed. So how is an item consumed? It is going to be consumed with this out operation. It is consumed with an out operation. So while counter is equals to 0, do nothing, and the buffer we are going to call here this one as the shared data structure, and we are going to call that one as the critical section item. We are going to call this buffer as a critical section item, and out we are going to call here as an index here. So from this we are going to move it into the next consumable item. How many times we are going to repeat this iteration means we are going to repeat this iteration until the buffer is full. How we know that iteration, or how we this out is going to be there means out plus plus out, so we are going to say out is equals to out plus 1. So out plus 1 and out plus 1. So it reaches to the maximum size. So then we are going to initiate one more value there here as counter here. So until the counter is decremented. So to the end, we are going to say the item is going to be consumed. So consume the item in the next consume. So one by one item we are going to consume it. So that is what the solution given by this producer and consumer problem. So when we are going to work on this race condition, so race we are going to say the race, 1 second, I can say 5F9, 505, 5B0, 58. Please don't take back the presentation. You will not get access till the control is with me. So the same PowerPoints are available in the Unit 2 and Unit 3. You can review it. The PDFs are also available in the Google Classroom. The PDFs are available in the Microsoft Steep links. There is nothing else to you to refer it. Only my explanation will be there. Rest everything is open. Fine. So and the recorded videos will be again given in the Microsoft Teams. So this is our action plan. So next one we are going to say counter plus plus. So we are going to have this as a counter plus plus, and well, some void, what we can say is some void. So unforeseen condition. So unforeseen condition, what we are going to say, that one we are going to call it as a race condition. So these race conditions happen during the counter, that is plus plus or minus minus. So here you can see the count value initially it was 5, and see here register 1 it is 5 here, it is 5 here, and second one it is 6 here and it is 6 here. So two or more items they are going to bombard at the same time. At that time it may leads to some deadlock here, it may leads to some ambiguity here, it leads to some ambiguity. So that ambiguity we are going to call here as a race condition. So the whatever activities we are going to say, it is S0 or S1, whatever entities we are going to say, they are going to repeat the same values. At that time the race condition it is going to happen. Now coming to the definition of this critical section. Coming to the definition of a critical section, we can assume that there are some n processes. So the set of n processes are represented as P0, the set of n processes are represented as P1 up to Pn minus 1. And now the clear discussion, you can see what is a critical section. So critical section is nothing but it is going to have some segments, and that segments we are going to say it is common. When we are going to say it is common, we are going to call those elements as shared variables. So we are having some common variables, we are having some update tables, and we are having some file locations. So which it is can be accessible to P0, it can be accessible to P1, it can be accessible to another Pn minus 1 entities, whatever entities are there to which are needed the shared variables. For all those elements, the items are going to be common. So those elements that is available. So each process has a critical section, a segment of code. And what is that critical section of a code means? It can be some shared variables, it can be some tables, or which it can be common to two or more content. So that is where we are going to say it is a critical section. So the shared data structure, the shared item, whatever it is there, those they are going to be put it into the critical section. Okay, fine. Shared elements are there. Now, how do I protect it? So how do I protect it? One, it is going to be protected with an entry section. Two, it is going to be protected with the exit section. And after the critical section, is done, there is one more section which we are going to call it as a remainder section, which we are going to call here as a remainder section. So the common elements what we are going to give to the program, those common elements, they are given in a critical section. The elements which are not common to the processes, those elements, they are going to be given in the remainder section. Okay, in a class I am going to have public members. I am going to have it as a public members A comma B, and then I am going to have a private members, and private members are some X comma Y. So A comma B we are going to put it into the critical section, X comma Y we are going to put it into the remainder section. So that is the difference here. If I am going to take it as a class here, and the class it is going to contains data members and member functions, and I am going to have these data members or member functions, assume it as A and B, and it can be shared by all the process. Then we are going to have this X comma Y. So this X comma Y, they are going to be called it as private members. So private members, it can't be shared by others. So they are going to be put it into the remainder section, and A comma B, it can be with all the classes towards it. So those we are going to put it is common, and that elements we are going to put it into the critical section. So here we can see the critical section generalized structure, and this generalized structure now we are going to put it into the control structure. We are going to give it into the control structure. So a critical section is going to have some protection mechanism. We are going to have some protection mechanism, and this protection mechanism, it is going to have two elements. One we are going to call it as an entry segment, and another we are going to call it as a exit segment. So all the common variables, I can say here, all the common variables, all the shared items to all process are kept in critical section. So that is what we are going to assume for this chapter. So a critical section is a section where the shared variables are there, the common variables are there, common files are there. So that elements we are going to give it in a critical section, and critical section is going to be protected by two entities. One entity we are going to call it as an entry section, and another entity we are going to call it as an exit section. The things which are not common to all, those we are going to give it them into the remainder section. The things which are not common to all, those we are going to give it into the critical section. So you can assume here what is an entry section. So entry section we are going to call it as turn, and exit section again we are going to call it as I. So here we are going to call J, and we are going to call it as I. Those we are going to call it as process. So J is going to come inside, and it is going to say it is my turn to use, and we are assuming that already P1 is going to, Pi is going to be in the critical section, it is sharing. Then we are going to say you have to wait until Pi releases. So we can say here wait until Pi releases the critical section. So Pj is there, I am my next turn. So when is my next turn activated? Your next turn is activated until P1 releases. If P1 is going to release the critical section, then Pj can enter it. If Pi is going to release the critical section, then Pj can enter it. So that is what we are going to emphasize on this. Okay. Now, how are these critical sections taken care? Of course, the critical sections are taken care with two elements. One, we are going to call it as an entry section. Another, we are going to call it as exit section. Of course, this is the protection mechanism. Now, to do this protection mechanism, there are three efficient ways to work. One, we are going to call it as mutual exclusion. Second, we are going to give it as progress. And third one, we are going to call here as a bounded waiting. So these are the three solutions which are given to the critical section because the shared items are available. So these shared items has to be protected. For that, they are going to propose three solutions. The first solution was mutual exclusion, second solution was progress, and third solution was bounded waiting. Okay, now what is mutual exclusion? So mutual exclusion says that at most one job must use the critical section. So if Pi is using the critical section, it will not allow Pj or Pn or Pm or Px. So whoever job it is there, that job it is not allowing inside the critical section. So it is possible with entry section and exit section. Okay, who are the nominee people at entry? Who are the people waiting at exit? The three people who are waiting at entry and exit will be the mutual exclusion concept, will be the progress concept, and will be the bounded waiting process. What is mutual exclusion? Mutual exclusion will emphasize, will give assurance that if Pi is going to activate a critical section, no other job will enter inside. So either Pi should be there nor Pj should be there, and it says that at most one job is going to be activated at a one interval of time at the critical section. The second one we are going to say is called as a progress. So when we are going to say a progress items, so we can say a scroll bar will happen when we copy a file from one location to another location. It says some 25% is over, some 50% is over, 75% is over, 100% is over, so 0% is over. In this way, it is going to make you engaged so that you will not get bored, nor you will not get emphasized. Okay, when is my chance? When I am going to get? So you need some status. You need some status so that the other process will keep updating when it's its next round. When it is next round. So that keeping that updated basic procedure, we are going to emphasize it as progress. So what I am going to say here is, if Pi is going to use a critical section, then Pi will put progress. So what is that progress? In sense, it is that so Pj, it can wait for some amount of time. It can wait for some amount of time, and you can say Pj is the next turn. So your turn will be next after my use, and now I am using 10%, now I am using 20%, I am using 30%. In this way, it is going to intimate. Next one, we are going to say the third concept as bounded waiting. When we are going to hear a word called as bounded waiting, what does this bounded waiting does? We are going to say is that, so Pi is going to be in the critical section, and Pj will come here, and waits, still PJ is not exiting. Again PJ will come. Again PJ, it is going to reiterate the process. So there is no clear indication when PI is going to regulate it towards the critical section, and there is no clear indication to the PJ when PI is going to leave the critical section. There is no progress, there is no progress here. So it is going to say it is put in a state called as bounded waiting. So it is waiting until the PI is going to exit from the critical section. So we are going to say here as there is a request here, and that request has to be processed one after the other. As PI is going to be in the critical section, PJ has to wait until PI is going to release it. So it is repeatedly seeing that, giving a request, and that request is going to be holded. So it is waiting. So that repetitive waiting, what we are going to emphasize, we are going to call it as bounded waiting. Okay, so now the critical section, again the critical section, it is going to emphasize on two words. One, it is going to call it as preemption. Another we are going to call here as non-preemption. When we are going to say it is preemption, so again we can take the diagram. We can take the diagram here. So in this diagram, I can say where the operating system is going to be there. This operating system mode, we are going to call it as kernel mode. And here this area we are going to say, so this area we are going to say, this area, it is going to be called it as a user mode. We are going to call it as user mode, and this one we are going to have the user threads, and this area we are going to have the kernel threads. So user, he is going to submit his jobs. User, he is going to submit his jobs. So this is job 1, job 2 and job 3. So all the jobs are going to be submitted, and at this stage, it is going to intimate the operating system, it is going to work on it. So it is going to give the CPU. So until job 1, job 2, job 3 completes, it is not allowing the others to take over the CPU there. So we are going to say runs until it exits the kernel mode blocks. So it is now here it is going to enter into the kernel mode, and it is executing job 1, job 2, job 3. So we can say it is non-preemption. So we can say it is non-preemption. So the jobs are going to be brought into the kernel mode, and until the jobs are completed, none of the job is taken up, because it has pushed all the things into the kernel mode. So until the jobs has been completed and out from the kernel mode, new jobs are not going to be inputted. So that is where this non-preemption is going to come. Okay, now what is an example here for a preemption? So I have job 1, I have job 2, and I have job 3. So all of them, they are arrived at 0 millisecond. So now these three, they are pushed to OS, and OS, it is going to push to the CPU, the kernel here, and so to the kernel. So we can say here the CPU is going to be allotted here, and these are working at the 0th millisecond. Meanwhile, some job 4 and job 5, they entered into the system. So job 4, it entered at 2nd millisecond, and job 5, it entered at 5th millisecond. So what is going to happen? It is allowing all the jobs here, and it is going to say it allows preemption of process when it is running in kernel mode. Okay, what it going to do? It is going to up cascade. It is going to allow those two process, and it is going to have a concept of preemption here. So that is the basic difference, where critical region, it even considers, even though it is running in the kernel mode also, it suspends its process, consider the new blobs. But when it is going to work in non-preemption, it is not going to suspend its any process. It completes it, runs it, and it doesn't exit from the kernel until the jobs are performed. So that is the difference between the kernel's preemption and their non-preemption. So that is what we are going to give a takeaway from this first topic of critical section. So first topic of critical section, it is emphasized with the first word we call here as concurrency, two or more events doing simultaneously at a time. We call that one as synchronous. And producer producing an item, consumer consuming an item. When the item is produced by the producer, consumer has to wait. When consumer is going to consume an item, producer has to wait. So there a synchronization mechanism has to happen. That synchronization mechanism is going to happen via a concept of critical section. And in critical section, we are having some shared variables. So those common variables, the writable files, etc. So those we are going to call it as public members, and private members, which is accessible exclusively to that process, that it is going to be put in a remainder section. So the entry and exit section, they are acting as a protection mechanism for the shared variables. So how is this protection mechanism done? Yes, it will be done with a word called as mutual exclusion. So mutual exclusion, it gives at most one job is going to be taken up at a time. Progress, what is the first process, what is the next process, what is the third process, everything it is going to define. Who is first, who is second, it is going to define. So how much P job, the job inside the shared variable has been there, the status it is going to update. And bounded waiting, there is no progress here. So it is assumed that after this PI is happened, PJ is next, but still PI is not released. So it is keep on repeating when PI will come, when PI will come. It is hold on there, it is waiting until PI is going to come out from the critical section. So totally it is bound and it is unable to execute it other tasks. So it is totally bounded that PI has to release the resource, then only it can start its job. So that is the syncing problem happened, where we are going to call that one as a bounded waiting. So bounded waiting, I mean this critical section, they can be implemented either with a preemption concept, nor they can be implemented with a non-preemption concept. So these are all the key takeaways from this first topic. So this is the first, and now we will be looking into the second topic also. So we have 141 students today turned in. So let us look into the second topic. So this second topic, it is going to use two more terms, extending of the critical sections with a Peterson solution and with a synchronization hardware. So critical region, it is going to have solution only for two processes. So it can be PI, nor it can be PJ. If there are multiple processes used for shared variables in critical section, then we are going to prefer the Peterson solution, as simple as such. So the general solution was, it is confined to only two processes. Earlier solution, what we have proposed in the previous topic, we are telling it is confined only to the two jobs. But if the jobs are more than two, at that case, the confinement what we have taken earlier through mutual exclusion, through bounded waiting to progression, it is going to fail. But to make it on track, the Peterson solution is going to happen it, and it is going to happen with a word called as locking. It is going to use a word called as locking, and implementing a locking mechanism along with mutual exclusion. Obviously, Peterson solution has yielded a results, and it has become a trademark towards this operating system in process synchronization. So how is this Peterson's solution implemented? So when Peterson's solution has to be implemented, then we are going to say there are two processes, and these two processes now they are going to use some two shared variables. One I am going to call here as turn, and another one we are going to call it as flag value. So you can see flag, it is going to be a Boolean data structure, and turn we are going to say it is an integer data structure. So it is going to say which is the process, whether process P1, whether process P2, whether process P3, which process job is going to be the next one. Which process job, which process is next one. So then it is going to be done with a turn variable. Boolean, whether it is use, not use. The critical section, whether it is in use nor whether it is not use. When we are going to say it is not use, we are going to call it as 0. When it is in use, then we are going to say it is 1. So the flag, it is going to indicate two variables, that is 1 and 0. So there are two other constructing elements. One we are going to say it is load, another we are going to assume it as store, and these two things, they are going to be atomic. So the main intention of atomicity, either in DBMS also you can recollect, it will sees that at most one transaction should happen. So we can see that at most one should be there, and it should be, we can say, unique, and we can assume it as a unique here. So only one element at a time can enter into the shared shared region. Now we are going to call it as a critical section. So first of all, Peterson's solution has been implemented with two processes. First of all, Peterson's solution has been given to two processes. Thereby, it has been extended to the multiple process. Got it? First, they have taken two elements, and when the two elements has been satisfied, then they promote it to the n elements. So now you can see here this we are going to say as an entry section, and this one we are going to call it as an exit section. So in entry section, it is going to use the two elements. One we are going to say the flag value, another we are going to call it as an integer value. So flag value, we defined it as a Boolean data type. Turn, we defined it as an integer data type, right? Flag value, we defined it as a Boolean value, and turn we are going to indicate it as a integer value. And when we are going to say it is Boolean, then we emphasize one, it is true value, and another we are going to call it as a false value. So when the people, they are going to say they are going to use this critical section, they are going to set the parameters. And after me, who is going to use the critical section? After I, who is going to use the critical section? Yes, after I, J is going to use the critical section. So the turn of J will be next. So that is how they are going to put it during the entry section. Okay, I is going to use the critical section, and after Pi, next one was Pj. That we are going to emphasize. So how is it possible? It is possible by putting the elements in the entry section. So mutual exclusion is going to be preserved, and how it is going to preserve is that when Pi is going to enter itself, then it is going to convert it into Pi as false, or turn is equals to I. So after I, who is going to be the turn? It will be J. So now again we are going to say what these algorithm, Peterson algorithm, it is going to do or happen. One, it is satisfying mutual exclusion. Two, it is going to satisfy the progress requirement. Three, it is going to satisfy the bounded waiting requirement. So it is going to give a time. So until Pi is going to come out, then Pj is going to wait. So where that is bounded waiting, then we are going to say, yeah, Pi has been executing this critical section for 25%, 30%. In this way, it is going to bring out the status requirement. So that status requirement is going to be satisfied. And the next one, the mutual exclusion, Pi is going to be inside the critical region, and Pj, it is going to be weighted. So that is what we are going to illustrate in this algorithm. So Peterson solution has been extensively used to this synchronization mechanism. That is fine. Now, how this synchronization mechanism is going to do a locking procedure? How this synchronization mechanism is going to do a locking procedure, or how it is going to preserve a word called as an atomicity. So for that, so so when there is a uniprocessor, is going to happen, we can see there is only CPU, and this CPU, it is going to have an arithmetic logic unit and a control unit. But when we are going to say it is multiprocessor, when it is called it as a multiprocessor, we can say one CPU, more than one CPU is going to happen. So at this case, what we can write here is, we can say there is control unit, and there is ALU, So I can say this is CPU 1 and this is CPU 2. So now this is called as a uniprocessor. And the multiprocessor example, we can say there are more than one processor. So we can say it is dual core processor. So where is this synchronization mechanism happen? Synchronization mechanism, it need not be on sync. There is no synchronization mechanism. So synchronization mechanism should happen only at this multiprocessor systems, multiprocessor systems. And this multiprocessor systems, when the two or more jobs are competing at that same time, now the inefficiency shouldn't happen. At that way, they are going to use this locking mechanism. So they are going to say get lock, they are going to say acquire lock, and after that they are going to call it as release lock. Hope you heard these two terms in DBMS. So I am having a transaction. Before a transaction is going to start, there is a word called as two-page locking. In two-page locking, all the locks will be acquired and the shared variables will be updated. Once the lock is going to be released, the items are going to be shared variables are going to be released. Then we are going to say it is a released lock. The same concept was first implemented in operating system, and there it was implemented in DBMS. So the synchronization hardware, it is going to adopt a strategy of locking, and that locking is going to be preserved with the two status contents. One, we are going to say it as atomicity, and that is acquiring a lock, and once the shared variables are going to be acquired over the lock, it uses those elements, and after that it releases the things. So it preserves the word called as here as a atomicity. So the Peterson solution, now earlier it has been two elements what they are going to say. One, we are going to call it as entry state, another we are going to call it as an exit state. And in entry state, the Peterson solution has been taken up with two elements. One, it is taken it as a turn, and turn it is defined as an integer value. Later on, it is having false nor true. So that is, it has been taken it as a Boolean value. So with these two elements, it has managed the critical section. So here critical section is there, and after the critical section there is a remainder section is there. So that is totally managed. But now the entry and exit of a critical section elements has to be preserved from external references. That external references can be preserved with one element. They are going to be call it as a synchronization hardware elements, those synchronization hardware elements, one they are going to be called it as acquiring the lock, and another we are going to say releasing the lock. So once the lock has been acquired, no other will be able to use the same critical region or a critical section at that same moment of time. So now, how a process, has it acquired a lock, has it released a lock, has to be verified. So whether a lock has been taken up or a lock has not taken up, that it has to be verified. So how is it verified? It is verified with a function, and the function we are going to call it as test and set. So testing, it sees that whether no other job, is there any other job which is using the shared variable, you are going to set, and you are going to call it as test here. So verify any other job, using shared variable, using the shared variable. Set, you have to put the turn here, you have to intimate the progress here, whether it is I turn or whether it is J turn. So which process it needs to have a turning value, that we are going to set up, and that it is going to be the Boolean value. It can be a 0 value, nor it can be a 1 value we are going to initiate. So why this test and set function does? The test and set function, what it is going to do, it is going to do it, execute it automatically, then it is going to return to the original parameters, and third, it is going to set the state as true. So it is going to take which job it is, what is the target job, whether it is PI nor whether it is PJ, and what is the target item, it has to be there, whether it is 0 or whether it is going to be 1. We already mentioned that Peterson solution, it is going to take 1 as a turn value, another it is going to take a true or false as a Boolean value. So that initiation, it is going to happen at a function, predefined function called as test and set. So this it will be called in the next program here. So test and set will be called in the bounded waiting problem. So this one we will be discussing up in the next class. So to conclude today's class, the first thing, we taken up this Peterson solution. So Peterson solution, it is going to address if more than one jobs are there to competing for the shared item. So there it is going to activate it, but before it is going to give a solution with two variables for P and I, P and J with two primitives, one an integer primitive and Boolean primitive, and it has taken an entry section and an exit section. Entry section and exit section, it is bounded with the flag variable and turn variable, and later on the synchronization hardware is going to happen to acquire lock over all the shared content with locking mechanism, and it is not looking up towards the uniprocessor environment, because only one CPU is there at that time, only one job is going to execute, and so this is what we can do for today. So thank you for joining the class. Now I am stopping the recording.